What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, and welcome to a brand new segment of the channel. Every single Tuesday, we'll be bringing you the Premier League SPUR-SPECTIVE, where we have a look at the weekend's Premier League action and we put a kind of Spurs spin on it.
The Spurs view, I would say.
Yeah, the Spurs view. So shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
All right, and let's start off with the biggest, the happiest, what made me the happiest after the Spurs game, and this is Arsenal lose yet again at the Emirates as they lose 2-1 at home to Wolverhampton Wanderers. In a game where you would say that Arsenal are carrying on their scintillating form of the season.
Obviously, there was a game in the first half marred by horrific injury to Raúl Jimenez, who, you could hear fracturing his skull in a clash with David Luiz, and hopefully he gets better. And we saw Ryan Mason have his career ended by something very, very similar to that. So hopefully he's one of the Premier League's top forwards. So if his career is to end through that kind of injury, that'll be a massive, massive blow to the Premier League, I feel, and to football, because I think he's a quality player.
Yeah, I just want to say our thoughts and prayers do go out to Raúl Jimenez at this time, because nobody wants to see that. Whatever team you play for, a bit of perspective is needed, and you got to say that we just wish him a very speedy recovery, and we do hope he makes a return to action sooner rather than later.
Yeah, but going into the game, you would have thought with their best striker out, Arsenal might have had a bit more of the upper hand in this game.
Because he went off, with 20 minutes gone and the game half an hour gone?
Not even. It was
really?
Very early. They stopped play for a good 10 minutes.
I actually missed the first half of this because we were doing our live show, weren't we, during the first half?
Yeah. So he went off really early. You would have thought, although these games, when a big injury happens, it can affect the game. You would have thought there would be advantage more to Arsenal in that kind of element, but very quickly it turned out not to be the case. Mm-hmm. And Arsenal again, since they've. The thing with Arsenal is they've moved away from that back three, which all the Arsenal fans were complaining about, moved back to the back four, put Aubameyang through the centre, which every Arsenal fan was complaining about. The problem is now, not only do they still not look good going forward,
they look worse at the back.
They look a lot worse at the back, so it really isn't helping them at all. They look very, very open, and they're struggling. They're really struggling. Aubameyang looks disinterested. I know Partey, even though he lost 3 of his 4 games that he started, his injury is a big blow to them in central midfield. They don't really have
as well. He's out till like mid-January.
Is that true? Mid-January?
Yeah, apparently.
I know he's out for the North London derby. I didn't know he's out for him that much, which is that. Well, look, that's a big blow for Arsenal. They're struggling midfield as well with Ceballos, who's struggling. Xhaka, we know, isn't the best.
But this Arsenal team is just full of passengers at the moment. Everyone on that team is a passenger. Leno. Okay, Leno's not a passenger. Leno seems to be getting them out of more trouble than they're in already. But then when you look at players like, first of all, Gabriel. You look at Gabriel, who's actually had a good start to his Arsenal career, one of the better players in the Arsenal squad. You look at that Villa game, 2 of his mistakes lead to goals. You look at Daniel Podence's goal.
He got rinsed.
How he got completely rinsed.
You got to say it's a great piece of skill by Podence.
Yeah, you do, but you don't expect your best centre-back to be getting rinsed like that in your box.
Well, this is the thing. Even though he's their best centre-back, he's still young, 22. He's going to take a lot of learning. He's going to, he's new to the Premier League. He's only really had one great season in his career, which was last season.
Yeah.
So you need more experience centre-back to be your better centre. He's all right if he's like alongside a better centre-back, but if he's your main centre-back, you're in trouble, I think. Yeah. And I think we're seeing that at Arsenal at the moment. Their back four is a bit of a shambles. When it's a back four. When it's a back three, it's a bit more solid, but then they have nothing going forward. But right now, Aubameyang, he seems to be doing an Ozil.
Yeah. No, I said it when he signed the contract. I said this guy is going to get the £350,000 curse, and what that means is exactly the same as what it meant for Ozil. As soon as you sign that contract, you go off the boil, and this is exactly what it's showing in Aubameyang. He looks disinterested on the pitch,
and very similar to Ozil, where his best run of form came just before signing the contract. Mm-hmm. Exactly the same. So Ozil had a great run of form leading up to this contract signing, and he was like, will he sign, will he won't? And then he signed it. He's pretty much been off the boil since he signed that contract. And the same with Aubameyang.
And the funniest thing about it, not about the Aubameyang situation, but the funniest thing about the whole Arsenal situation at the moment is they're so void of creativity. They've got Ozil not even in the squad, and they're playing Joe Willock, where Ozil should be playing.
It's ridiculous.
And Joe Willock is so average, I can't tell you. Yeah, he might look good in a few Europa League games here and there, but this guy his name is Joe, and he's an average Joe.
And you got Ozil at home tweeting about the game. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And he's on.
They may as well get Ozil to run their social media.
Yeah,
get some money. Get some money out of it.
Get some value out of it.
I mean,
Willian as well, bleeding the club
I'm so happy we didn't sign him. Bloody hell.
They're paying him 200 grand a week, and he's
220 grand a week.
He's been putting in disaster class after disaster class at the moment. Although he did have put in a good assist.
Got an assist, yeah.
And you must say three home defeats in a row now for Arteta. That's really bad. But all this talk about he's come in, he's improved the team, or like everything like that. Look, the 30 games, that got Emery sacked. He got sacked. Arteta's been in charge for 30 games now, 30 Premier League games. It's been a year to the day since Emery got sacked. He's lost 10 of those 30 games, yeah? Emery lost less. He lost 9. And in those 30 games, Arteta's got 46 points. And in Emery's last 30 games, not his first, his last 30 games, which got him the sack, he got 47 points. So where's the improvement that I'm seeing? Where is this improvement? I know they won the cup, fair enough, but managers don't keep their jobs based on cup runs.
Arsene Wenger lost his job the year he won an FA Cup.
If Arsenal fans cared about the FA Cup so much, Wenger would still be in a job. That's the fact of the matter.
100%.
And managers, they don't lose their jobs because you lose a FA Cup fourth round tie. You lose your jobs because your league performance. That's why all managers are judged on that.
League in Europe, yeah.
Yeah, but all managers are judged on that. If you're in the FA Cup final and you're 18th in the league, you're getting sacked, or whatever. If you're in the FA Cup final and you're 10th in the league, you're getting sacked.
If you're on the Arsenal board right now, are you talking about Arteta getting the sack?
I think there's conversations. If they have a defeat to Tottenham, that's
especially a heavy defeat.
That's their sixth. That'll be their sixth defeat after 11 games. That is shocking. They've lost half their games this season, and I don't care if they've had hard games, they've had not hard games. It doesn't matter. Like pretty much half the Premier League at the moment is a tough game now, and I don't care what people are saying. I know people say he's not been backed, he's whatever. But he's the players they have there are a lot better than what he's dealing with. 100%, a lot better. You can't have a Aubameyang up front and him getting one non-penalty goal this season after 10 games.
The fact of the matter is, yes, they did get a slight a good bounce, and you saw improvements when Arteta first came in. Defensively, yeah. You saw improvements when Arteta first came in. You saw also Aubameyang probably hitting his best run of form at Arsenal. But since the new season has started, they have gone backwards big time, and I am loving every second of it. They are a complete shambles from top to bottom. The club is rotten to the core, it really is. And
Poch was 14th, and that got him the sack, didn't it? And that's with all the great stuff he had before him. One bad start, and he got sacked. And
the fans don't know what they want. The players are looking completely disinterested. The only players that are looking interested are players like Saka, Joe Willock, maybe Leno, you know what I mean? These kind of players. But they're players, they're go-to players. They're Aubameyangs, they're Gabriels, David Luiz, all these players. They just don't look interested. Maybe David Luiz looks interested, but he's crap. You know what I mean?
They're in trouble at the moment. But look, we've gone on about Arsenal a lot. I know, I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it at the moment. Arsenal struggling. But look, it's still very early days. You also
got to give credit to Wolves as well, because that was a great result for them.
Wolves are a good team.
But they haven't showed that this season too much.
Well, you say that. This is their best start to a Premier League season. Yeah. In terms of points.
But what you kind of associate with a Wolves team is kind of that free-flowing, attacking football, smashing them down the sides, really aggressive, fast.
They've never been a side who've scored loads of goals. They've been more defensively solid side.
They've never been a side that go and just get 1-0 performances week in, week out. That's what they've been showing this season, kind of.
I don't know about. Look, I think they've been first and foremost defensively solid. That's been their main base.
I think they've looked a lot different this season than they have in previous years.
Maybe. I haven't seen a massive difference in Wolves.
I thought they've been a lot entertaining in previous years, but they're probably getting the job done more this year.
I think they're entertaining against bigger sides, but I think in terms of the week in, week out, I think it's pretty much what as I expect from Wolves. But fair play, I think Podence's really coming along.
And Neto.
He looks really good. Neto's really coming along, but Jimenez is probably going to be a big miss. I can't see him playing again this season. Big shame for him. Yeah,
it's a big shame. The guy is a top quality striker. And me and you were calling for Spurs to sign him a couple of years ago when he was available for 30 million.
Quality. Yeah, I would have loved him at Spurs. I still would. Anyway.
All right, look, let's move on to the next game. I think we covered the scum for a bit too long now. Let's go on to Man City against Burnley, as Man City came back and beat Burnley. It's kind of their yearly drubbing of Burnley, 5-0.
Yeah, as expected. Nothing to see here, really. Burnley haven't been great this season, as we've seen. And they always get... I don't know how many years in a row. That 3 years in a row it's been 5-0 for Man City. So
I think their last
drubbing.
4 or 5 performances have been 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, 5-0, 5-0.
There you go. And I think it's not worrying, but I think it'll give them a big confidence boost in terms of they have been struggling for goals in the past few weeks. So to get 5 will give them the confidence that and then the goals are going to start flowing for them now, which is a bit of a worry. De Bruyne seemed on top of his game again.
Yeah, but they were playing a very poor Burnley side. They've been shocking this season, really.
It's true. And it's a Burnley side who let them play their football, who kind of sat back and waited for them.
Burnley's best performance of the season probably came against us.
Probably, which we won 1-0. Yeah, they're probably right. They have struggled, but look, with Man City starting to bang in the goals, you can never rule them out. But hopefully, once they come up against better opposition, they start struggling again. But I don't know about that, because I think they're going to start getting their groove back.
I think so. When you look at Man City, you can't rule them out.
I even thought against us they played quite well.
They did, and you can never rule Man City out. They've got a centre back pairing now, which they didn't have last year, which is going to be very, very good moving on to the season. And I think they're going to keep growing and growing into the season in Laporte and Diaz. They've got full-backs as well, which are coming into form. Mendy's back now. He had a good performance against Burnley. They got João Cancelo as well on the bench. On the other side, they got Kyle Walker, probably the right back of the season this year. You got to say that. They got Kevin De Bruyne. Everyone knows his qualities. For me, the only thing that they're lacking at the moment is a proper striker.
Yeah, well, yeah, with Aguero injured and Jesus hasn't really hit the heights yet. But look,
although he's getting goals this season, isn't he?
He's getting a few. I think he's a good striker, Jesus. So, or Jesus, however you want to say it.
But you can never count Man City out. No, let's be honest.
And I think with them winning 5-0, I know it's only against a poor Burnley, but it will give them confidence, because it's kind of like sometimes when the goals aren't going in for you, just need one game where you smash it out, and all of a sudden it will start to click again. And I'm worried that might start happening again for City now. We'll see. Yeah,
no, I can see that. But look, let's see how they kind of go on into the season. But let's go over to the Amex, as Liverpool went to Brighton and could only manage a 1-1 draw. What did you make out of the game?
I thought Brighton were well worth the point. You can definitely say that. They missed that penalty in the first half. Maupay missing that penalty, putting it wide of the post.
And then he went off injured, didn't he? A few minutes later.
He went off injured. Salah had that goal ruled out for a toenail offside. We've seen those a million times now.
What did you make out of that?
Look, I don't like it because as I've said continuously with these offsides, the frame rates are so tight. There is a margin of error, and with these minuscule decisions, I think when it's that tight, I'm not sure if the technology is kind of good enough to make these calls right now when it's that as tight as it was. So I feel like in Holland, I've seen they've added a margin of error of about 5 to 10 centimeters. They've basically done it. So what they do is you'd see the lines that they make in the Premier League. They're like 1 millimeter thick or something. They're really, really to the nth degree, right, as thin as possible to try and get the most accurate. So what they've done in Holland is they've made the line about 5 millimeters, so they're a bit thicker. So what they've decided, if the lines are touching at all, if these two lines are touching, then they're just going to go with the on-field decision, basically, and then VAR's not going to interfere. If the lines are not touching, I think that's a good way to go. I think fans can accept that, I think, in my opinion, because what's happened now is what used to be considered level, and everyone used to see that, he's level, it's fine. It's not level anymore. Now it's half a millimeter offside, and I think that's a bit frustrating to take, especially because you're not really getting an advantage when you're a half a millimeter onside, and it's a bit frustrating from that point. So I feel like the way Holland are doing it is probably if the lines are touching like that, you just go with the on-field decision. It's a lot more easy to digest. But look, is what it is at the moment. You just got to accept these decisions at the moment, because if you're offside, you're offside.
I want to ask you about the VAR decision last night in the Aston Villa game. Ollie Watkins, was it Ollie Watkins? He was basically pushed to an offside position. What was that decision all about?
Because they're focused on a lot of the times they're focused on the wrong thing. They're focused on very, very similar to the Van Dijk injury, where because Van Dijk was offside, they just thought, oh, offside, so we're just going to ignore everything else. They completely missed that, like a murder assault by Pickford on him, because Van Dijk's offside, so let's just ignore everything else that happened in that clip. They're so focused on looking at these minuscule things that they miss. They say they're looking at clear and obvious, yet they missed the clear and obvious thing, and they're looking at the minuscule thing. It's completely the other way around. And I think, again, yesterday in the Villa game, it was a penalty, but because they were so focused on the offside, they completely missed the penalty. But then that leads to the question, if he was offside, is it a penalty anyway because he's offside? So I'm not really sure what the rule is. I think if it is, I'm pretty sure the rule is if you're fouling the player before the ball gets to him, I think it is a penalty. I think that is the rule because you're fouling him before.
That's what happened.
Exactly. So I think they did get that wrong, and I think because they were so focused on the offside, they thought offside. Let's ignore everything else that happened in that clip, and they didn't acknowledge that Agbona completely had his hands, his grip wrapped around him. But in terms of the Liverpool VAR in the last minute, which they got obviously they weren't happy about, which cost them a couple of points. Was it a penalty? I think it was soft. I think, in my opinion, these incidents VAR should not be getting involved in because the mantra was clear and obvious. And although I do believe it was a foul, because I do think Robertson kicks Welbeck, and Liverpool have had penalties this season for very similar things and no one's complained about it. I do think these kind of fouls where it's a little touch and it wasn't really impeding and stuff like that, these aren't clear and obvious. And I think these ones, half people will think it's a foul and half the people will think it's not a foul. And you should just go with the on-field decision with those kind of things. So that's what my gripe with that decision is. But the fact of the matter is, for me, I think it was a penalty. I do think that it was the right decision. I just don't think VAR should be getting involved in these kind of decisions, in my opinion.
All right. But in terms of like how the game went, how do you think Liverpool dealt with like their kind of injuries they've got at the moment?
If it wasn't for that VAR, they end up taking probably what you'd probably consider a hard-earned 3 points, where you dug deep. But the fact of the matter is, they didn't win. They got the draw.
And they were unlucky.
And no, I don't think they were unlucky. I thought Brighton were unlucky, if anything. I thought Brighton deserved at least a point in that game, and they were the better side. And I think Liverpool at the moment, Milner dropping with an injury as well. Klopp looks very agitated week by week. Look, they're still there.
Let's talk
battling.
about that Klopp interview after the game.
Yeah,
because he was having a pop at that reporter, wasn't he? Bloody hell.
He was, and the reporter was shooting back as well, Des Kelly. He was saying, look, it's the broadcaster's prerogative because these are the slots and you just got to deal with it. And I can kind of see both sides. From Klopp's side, he's saying, look, it's a strange season this season. We've got a lot of games. We haven't had much of a pre-season this season. Players are struggling through injuries and 3 games in an international break. Players are under a lot of pressure, and you're asking players from Wednesday to play the early kickoff on the Saturday, and it's putting a lot of strain on these players. They need a bit of a rest in those mornings. It's not really fair on them, and I can understand that. However, BT is saying, look, everyone wants Liverpool and Man City and Man United and these teams to broadcast because they bring in the most views, right?
Every game's getting broadcasted anyway.
Yes, but not on BT. Their point of view is BT only get the 12:30 slot. That's their only slot they get. So it's not their fault that because it's the only slot they get, they're going to choose Liverpool because Liverpool bring in the most views.
You have to protect the players.
Yes, that's what Klopp's saying. Klopp's saying, look, he's saying, I understand that that's the only slot you take, but you have to protect the players from a moral point of view. But BT don't have a moral prerogative to protect Liverpool. They have their interest is to protect BT Sport and to get the most viewers. They're a business at the end of the day, so they're going to think, look, we don't really. Basically, they're going to say we don't really care that your team's going to be ravaged by injuries. We want the most views, and you bring in the most views. And it's not our fault that the only slot we're given is 12:30. That's the only slot. So, what are you going to tell us? You're going to tell us that although that's your slot, you can't have Liverpool because that they played on Wednesday, so you're not allowed Liverpool, even though that's the only slot we've given you.
But it's true. Teams in Europe should be protected. In every other country in Europe, these teams are protected by the governing bodies, by the TV companies there. So why can't that happen in England?
And I think Des Kelly is right in saying that's a question for the Premier League. The Premier League have to protect the players more than the broadcasters. It's not the broadcasters' prerogative to protect the players. Although what Klopp is saying is the broadcaster should have a bit of morality about them, and not select Liverpool in those games because it puts them under extra strain.
At the end of the day, it's not just Liverpool. It's any team that's in Europe. A Europa League team, a Champions
Spurs
League team.
playing what did they play on? What game was it? West Brom was it? Where they played 12 o'clock when they played on Thursday night. That's not fair either.
We played 3 games in a week twice already this season.
Right beginning of the season, and somehow got through it. And that was a bit of a disgrace as well. Luckily, we didn't have the injuries or whatnot.
It's just lucky we've got a big squad.
Yeah.
Well, lucky Liverpool are lucky they've got a big squad, but they're ravaged by injuries at the moment.
I can see both sides. I do fall on Klopp's side because obviously I would rather the broadcasters were moral in how they selected their games and didn't put the players under pressure. However, I do understand BT Sport saying it's not our fault.
I think it's up to the Premier League.
It's up to the Premier League
to put these rules out to
Correct.
the broadcasters.
Correct.
That's what it's up to. And the Premier League do not show their clubs and their players enough protection over the years.
They don't give a crap.
They don't care. All they care about is money. And when you look at, like I said before, when you look at the Bundesliga, when you look at Serie A, when you look at La Liga, they're all protecting their own. And the Premier League do not do that.
Correct. You know in other leagues they play Friday night, don't they? Before Europe sometimes to give extra rest. They protect their European club. They want them to do well, but the Premier League don't care how teams do in Europe. They don't care. They just care how they do in the Premier League. And when they're broadcasting in those times, that's all they care about. So although Klopp was right to be annoyed, and probably also right to be annoyed at BT, I think he should be more annoyed at the Premier League. That's where his eyes.
But probably if he talks about the Premier League like that, he probably gets fined. You know what I mean?
Maybe, yeah, probably. But the Premier League need to look at themselves and think about the product they're putting out.
All right, let's move on to Southampton against Manchester United in a sensational comeback for Manchester United. Southampton went 2-0 up, was it, by half-time?
Yeah.
And Cavani comes on at half-time and grabs 2 late goals as Man U seal the victory.
Yeah, look, that's a really impressive win. Really impressive, I've got to say. Because I thought at 2-0, all of a sudden the questions start coming back, Ollie again, inconsistent results, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, all that kind of stuff. But to come back against a very good Southampton team who have played very well this season, although they don't have Danny Ings, they've been one of the top performing sides, really hard to play against.
I think
apart from when Spurs played them.
Yeah, I think the form table shows that it was Spurs and Southampton at the top of the form table the last 5 or 6 games. Yeah.
So to turn that around was very impressive.
To be fair though, look at them now, Southampton. They're winless in 2.
Yeah, a couple of games, but Man United 3 wins on the trot since losing to Arsenal. Although the performances haven't been great, that second half performance, I must say, at Southampton was great. And Cavani getting 2 classic Cavani poacher goals.
Proper star Cavani, isn't he?
I couldn't believe it when people were when United fans were complaining about Cavani signing, because although they wanted more out of their transfer window, I thought Cavani, I thought he's banged in the goals for season after season after season. I thought he's a well-accomplished striker, and not only that, I think he's exactly the striker they've been missing. That kind of physical presence up front who's a poacher. When
you look at the 2 players they were in for, it was Cavani and Jadon Sancho. They don't need Jadon Sancho, and especially not for the price that he was banded around for. Why would they need Jadon Sancho when they've got Rashford, Martial, Greenwood, Daniel James, these kind of players? They're all in the same kind of position as Jadon Sancho, whereas they really were lacking a number 9. And that's what they've got, and who better? What a better number 9 in Europe than Cavani, apart from Harry Kane, obviously.
Yeah, honestly, he's a physical presence. He's a poacher. He's if you get him fit, like he looks like he's getting fit now, then he's going to be one of the best number 9s in the league for sure.
I went to PSG against Lyon last year. I think it was last February. The game finished 4-2 to PSG, and the biggest cheer of the night was when Cavani came on with 10 minutes to go. I mean, the guy is absolutely exactly what you need as a number 9. He's big, he's tall, he's physical, he's got a great header, he's got a great finish. I mean, the only problem with him is his age.
Yeah, but United got one free. They got one a short-term deal, and players are lasting longer now. Look at Zlatan, top goal scorer in the Serie A, and he's nearly 40. So I think for the profile of striker,
Zlatan's a bit of a one-off, though. You know what I mean?
I know, but look at Lewandowski, 33 now.
Yeah,
he's killing it in the Bundesliga. Vardy, 33, top goal scorer in the Premier League last season. Aubameyang's 31, although 32 even, although he's not having a great season.
Where's Aubameyang this season?
That's true. He's not having a great season, but still. Like 33 isn't that old, and especially on a short-term deal, you got to say, I think it's a good deal for
I
them.
wanted Cavani at Spurs, to be fair.
Yeah, I think for him and to have him as an option with Kane would have been great. And I think Cavani's going to turn out to be a good signing for Man United. And I think he's exactly the striker that they needed, because they have different kinds of strikers. They don't have a striker like him. And so that's what they need to do to kind of break down defences when they're sitting in a low block kind of thing, because when there's not a lot of space in behind.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like the kind of tide is turning for Man United in this season now, or do you think it's just a bit of a form?
Look, we all know United, they're very inconsistent. And even though they've won 3 consecutive games, West Brom, they were very lucky. And although they played well in the second half against Southampton, they still got a bit lucky to get the wins. It was a last-minute winner. A draw will probably be in fair result. And also, Southampton had a lot of chances on the break to kill them off, and they didn't.
As they always will have, though, Southampton, the way they play.
And they just didn't kill them off. So Southampton will probably be really annoyed at themselves they didn't get anything out of that game.
But credit to United for coming back and winning the game.
But credit to United. Now they're only 3 points off third. And if, they would argue if Chelsea are in a title race, why can't they be considered in the title race? And I can see that. And I think United's squad is definitely underrated, because I think they've got a lot of quality in there. But I just don't think, first of all, their manager, I don't think they're going to keep pace with us because of their manager, and because I think our squad, even though their squad is also good, I think our squad has a bit more depth to it than theirs does. But I think, look, they're a good team, and but I think they're going to have some inconsistent results still.
The thing is with United this season, they're actually winning a lot of games, but they've lost too many games.
That's the thing.
But they're not drawing. It was a bit like Spurs a few years ago, when we weren't drawing many games, but we were either losing or winning. So they're actually picking up quite a few points. When you look at Chelsea, they've drawn too many games this season.
They've drawn 4,
so that's why they're kind of par with each other.
And their game in hand against Burnley, so very likely that United could be only 2 points off us if they win that game in hand. But look, still very early days. And I think I still haven't been that impressed. Whereas when I'm looking at Tottenham, I've been very impressed with how we've played and our performances, despite even like against Newcastle and West Ham when we do drop points, we're still putting in good performances. Whereas Man United, even when they're winning, I'm still not convinced by them.
All right, let's move on to the King Power Stadium last night as Leicester lost at home to Fulham in a very, very surprising result. The game finished 2-1 to Fulham after Fulham went 2-0 up before half-time, and then Leicester got one back.
Another team, Leicester.
More inconsistencies from Leicester.
Another team as well who haven't drawn this season. 6 wins, 4 losses.
Yeah.
So even though they've matched us to wins, the 4 losses tells me that in terms they're not going to really be challenged. You can't lose 4 games out of your first 10 and be challenging near the top of the league.
Yeah.
I think that although they've got good results against Man City and they've got against Arsenal, they won 1-0. Whenever they're asked to kind of come onto teams, they seem to struggle a bit. And they lost at home to Villa, losing at home to Fulham, which is pretty unforgivable in this current climate. It shows. People say it shows how crazy the Premier League is, but I just think Leicester were always a bit overrated. And maybe although they've done well this season, despite their injuries, the injuries might be catching up with them a bit.
When you look at Leicester last season, yes, they had a brilliant first half of the season, but second half of the season they were pretty much showing relegation form.
Yeah,
it was a travesty for Leicester not to finish in the top 4 last year. It really was. The amount of points they were ahead. I think did they lose it on the last day or second last day or something? That's how far behind they were.
Yeah.
It's mad. When you look at them this season, I think it's a bit of both from last season. I think they're just showing their true colours, to be honest. And
you look at their home form, I think they've lost to Fulham, they lost to Villa, they lost to West Ham 3-0. I mean, you don't lose 3-0 at home to West Ham, you don't lose 2-1 at home to Fulham if you're serious about contending at the top end of the Premier League, or at least for a title.
I never really considered them as title challengers.
And I think, look, I'm not saying they're a bad team. They're clearly a good team. They know how to set up. They know how to get results against bigger teams and teams who sit off them.
And I rate Brendan. I think he's a good manager, Brendan Rodgers, but they have been ravaged by injuries, let's be honest.
They have been ravaged. Sionchu and Ndidi out for long-term injuries, which is going to affect them for sure. And I think they did well to kind of adjust to those injuries. But I think at the moment we're seeing injuries maybe catching up with them a bit. And I can't really. Leicester, I can't see for me. I don't think they're going to be challenging for top 4 come in the next couple of months.
I think the way when you bring up the Premier League table, I can see that the 3 at the top now, are the ones with the least losses in the Premier League, all one loss each.
Yeah.
I think those are the three teams. I think the league is kind of shaping up now to what it's going to be throughout the season. I think Chelsea, Liverpool and Tottenham are going to be the front runners of the season. You'll probably have Man United and Leicester battling it out for that 4th spot. And Man City obviously will be up there as well. I think Man City will be up there with Tottenham, Liverpool and Chelsea come a few weeks' time.
Yeah, they'll be. I agree. But we just got to keep up. Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's move on to Goodison Park as Everton bowed to their 4th defeat in their last 5 games after what a great start to the season they had. They lost 1-0 at home to Leeds.
Yeah, and they're falling away as well.
They really are falling away. Leeds, another great result for them.
Look, they're a great team. They're always going to be very difficult to play against. They're always going to be very difficult to play against Leeds. We all know that. But in terms of Everton, I always knew that even though they had a good start, I was never fooled in terms of that people saying, "Oh, can Everton challenge for the title?" And they've got a very good first 11, but that's kind of it with Everton.
But even so, their first 11, it's not great. It's like good.
It's
you know
good.
What I mean?
It's very, like, it's always going to give you a game, that first.
Yeah,
11.
it'll give you a game, but once they get a few injuries, like you saw when Richarlison was out, they couldn't win a game.
Completely fell apart. Look how they struggled. They struggled very badly against Fulham last week when even though they won 3-2, they could have easily dropped points in that game. They've lost to Newcastle. They got
battered by Southampton.
Yeah, Southampton completely battered them. Man United deserved the win when they played them as well. And then obviously Leeds have taken the win. Leeds have taken the win last. A couple of days ago, and they were well worth the win as well. So I feel like Everton as well, I think they can challenge for top 6. I do think that, because I think with James Rodriguez, if he can recapture his form, and Calvert-Lewin still banging the goals,
I think they're an outside chance.
They're an outside chance for top 6, but people saying what annoys me is when people say, when people see Tottenham top of the league, they say, look how crazy the results are. Tottenham are top. It's like, are they not seeing we look at our squad, look at our team, look at our manager. We predicted at the beginning of the season, after the window anyway, that we were going to be challenging for the top, near the top. But Everton, you can see that their squad is paper thin. It's paper thin, and not only that. They still have Michael Keane and Yerry Mina.
Yeah, the defence is shocking.
Their defence isn't good
enough. And Luca Dean now is out for a while as well. He's been one of their best players this season.
One of their best outlets. And Pickford's still making mistakes in goal as well. So I predicted near the beginning of the season that Everton were going to fall away, and it seems to be happening at the moment. And I think it shows, when they're getting these defeats, we're not losing these kind of games, even though we got a few unlucky draws. We're not losing convincingly, like Everton and Leicester.
The only team we did lose to this season.
Exactly. I know we lost to them at the beginning of the season, but you can clearly see it looks like that we were in pre-season that game. Let's be honest. The transfer window was still open. We hadn't got all our signings through the door. We're a different team to even when we were then. Yeah. So I think Everton are falling away, and it's no surprise to me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, they really need to shape up soon.
They're not gonna fall away to like mid-table. They'll still be challenging 7th, 6th.
Yeah, but their fans were really hoping they can challenge like even the top 4 at the beginning of the season.
And Ancelotti said, I think it was after the Fulham game, he says we're still. He said I believe we're still challenging for the top, but I saw that and I'm like, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure
either. Let's breeze past the rest of the results on the weekend. Friday night, Newcastle won 2-0 at Selhurst Park against Palace.
That's a solid result for Newcastle.
Yeah.
It was, winning away at Crystal Palace, who, although without Zaha, they've been pretty good this season for a lot of games. They've been all right.
Still boring side, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Roy Hodgson.
I know, it is classic, but yeah, without Zaha, they're always going to struggle a bit. But a solid win, I guess, for Newcastle, but yeah, nothing much really in it.
West Brom took the 3 points in a bottom of the table clash against Sheffield United, and they're really in trouble, aren't they?
Really struggling.
I said to you a few months ago that I really think Chris Wilder could be the first to get the sack.
Yeah, I didn't.
Now I think he'll be the first after Arteta.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't read too much into their bad form at the back end of last season in terms of how it was going to come into this season. But the fact of the matter is they haven't really signed. The only
one they signed was Brewster, wasn't it?
Yeah, Brewster. And the thing is with Sheffield United is, I think Wilder's a good manager and I think they've got a good system, but their squad is championship level. That's the fact of the matter. The quality of their squad. Wilder did a miracle last season, squeezing every ounce of ability he could out of that squad.
There's only so much you can do, isn't
Exactly, and they relied so much on that, because even last season they weren't scoring. They relied so much on that defensive ability, and their defensive ability hasn't even dropped off that much. It's only dropped off about 5% or something, right? But that makes all the difference, because they were winning for last season when they were winning games 1-0 or drawing games 1-1. Now they're drawing the games they would have won, and they're losing. They're not even doing. They're doing 1 point from 10 games. They're pretty much losing every game now by 1 goal. It shows how much a tiny drop in defence can make a big difference to a team like Sheffield United.
As well, what I want to say is that I think no fans in stadiums is really affecting them as well, because Bramall Lane was atmosphere there was insane, and they were the real 12th man, and they pushed them through in a lot of games.
I agree.
And I think similar to Burnley as well. Similar to Burnley, because Turf Moor as well was also always a place that you didn't want to go. And now it's just like there's no intimidation. There's no intimidation.
Exactly. Teams can come there and kind of play their game and not be overawed by the situation.
And let's be honest, 2,000 fans. I don't even know if they're allowed 2,000 fans in, but 2,000 fans is not going to make a difference.
Probably, unlikely.
So I really fear for Burnley and Sheffield United this season. I think they could both go down. I really do.
I feel like Sheffield United, if they do get a few recruits in January, you might see a bit of improvement. But at the moment, with the squad they have, they're going to struggle. Yeah.
And then the last game to talk about is West Ham beating Aston Villa last night.
Yeah, that was a good result again for West Ham, and Villa all dropping points. And it's funny because if Villa would the one last night and won the next game on Friday, because I think they're playing Friday next week, they would be joint top with us. But look, I never thought Villa as well. People were talking, can Villa challenge at the top as well after beating Liverpool 7-2? They're always going to fall away. They've got a good team as well, no doubt about it. They'll be challenging with Everton and
their team
United.
To Everton?
I think Everton's is a bit more well-rounded. But I think Villa have really come on leaps and bounds this season. You definitely see that. Grealish linking up really well with Barkley. A bit of deflection, but it was classed by Grealish. He's been one of the players of the season.
Could have had him for 4 million.
Don't remind me. Ross Barkley's played really well. That Douglas Luiz looks like a real player in the centre mid. Tyrone Mings is playing really well. John McGinn has come back from injury and is playing really well. That right back as well, Matt Cash, I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah, great assist last night.
Yeah. And Watkins obviously had a great start. So I think, look, they're a young team with a lot of energy and a young English team. So I like them, but I just don't think they have the consistency to be challenging near the top end of the Premier League. And when you compare them to us, I just like. I just don't think you can compare the squads.
I think when you look at Villa, I think by come the end of the season they'll be fighting out for like 7th, 8th spot.
Yeah, I agree. And I think at the end it's been a very good weekend for Spurs. You know, we got the draw. They kept us top of the league. All our rivals, apart from Man United, dropped points pretty much. So that keeps us top. And it ended up being a very, very valuable point for us. And I think it just annoys me when people say, Spurs top of the league, and then people retort to that saying, yeah, but there's so many strange results.
Let them talk how they want.
It's just very disrespectful, as if
they're always going to disrespect us. Like you keep saying, it's because our name is Tottenham Hotspur. It's got nothing to do with anything else.
Exactly. If we had exactly the same manager, exactly the same squad, but our name was Man United, everyone would be talking us favourites for the league.
Man United, Man City, Liverpool, if anyone, literally anyone, Arsenal were doing the same as us, what we're doing on the pitch, performing how we're performing, against the big teams, against the small teams, whatever, they'll be saying, what a team they are, title challengers, blah, blah, blah. But just because we're Tottenham Hotspur, they can't say nothing.
They have to
say, beat us down.
It's a strange season. Look how weird the results are. You know, that's only the reason why Spurs are top of the league and everything. It's like everything you can see at the moment is in place for us. And as I've said before, when we did that squad review, we said if we do these things, we will be challenging for the league. And we did these things, and that's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what we're seeing. So I'm very happy.
Gone now as well.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'm happy with how, obviously, the first quarter has been a great first quarter for Spurs. We're still top. And the most encouraging thing is the way we're playing against the top sides, just as much as we're playing against the middling sides. We're taking every game as seriously as possible. We're being consistent with our performances. And, you know, when people say, compared us being at the top to like Villa and Everton and stuff, I think you can definitely see in the first quarter we're a different level of consistency to those lot. We're not losing these games at the moment. We're being defensively solid. We've got the best defense in the league. We've got the best attackers, inform attackers at the moment as well. So you got to say things are boding well for Spurs.
We've conceded the least and we've scored the second most.
Yeah,
so that's
and we're being consistent. We're not playing these sides like Newcastle away, like Everton did, and getting a defeat, or West Ham and getting a defeat. Like, we're being very consistent in our results.
We did play Newcastle, West Ham, and draw both.
We drew, but we should have won. Like, it was different because we should have won those games. So look, I think we've probably been the most consistent team so far this season.
We're on the longest unbeaten run.
Yeah. 3 clean sheets now in a row, and 4 clean sheets out of 5.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with how Spurs are going, and roll on next week. London,
right, roll on to the North London
derby, baby.
I mean, this season's going. So you can just see like Spurs mean business.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of it, Arsenal just look completely done and dusted. So.
And I know it's very early, and people say it's very early, and you can't.
It is very early.
It is very early, and look, Spurs will probably have a bad patch at some point this season, no doubt about it. But I think at the moment you just got to say what you see. And at the moment, what I'm seeing is we're moving in the right direction. There's nothing you can tell me. There's no argument you can tell me to say that Spurs shouldn't be challenging this season or not moving in the right direction, because everything is in place. So that's why we have the belief.
All right, so there you have it. That was the first episode of our Premier League SPUR-SPECTIVE. Let me know what you thought of the show in the comment section below. Let me know if you thought about anything else that we forgot to mention over the weekend's football. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always,
come on you Spurs!